Yes, I think it is recording. Yep. Okay, Hare Krishna again. Welcome to our Bhakti Jumpstart Study Jam. We are moving on to our module 3. We've done our module 1 and module 2. Um, we are now moving to module 3 that's called Sadhana Bhakti. Most of the content for this module has been taken from the Nectar of Devotion. So here are the objectives for this module. You will learn about sadhana bhakti in terms of hearing and chanting japa, avoiding Vaishnava aparad or offensive to Vaishnavas, and following the four regulative principles, and how do you manage your unwanted desires or anarthas. That's the main objective. Uh, Guru Maharaj has a wonderful lecture of short 22 minutes lecture here at the beginning of this module. I won't play it. You should listen that on your own. But then there'll be some highlights from that we will discuss. And at the end, there are some important lecture links that are given as well. So, and as always, there is a quiz and a personal reflection at the end. So here's the video of Guru Maharaj. So you can watch that at your own pace. Okay, so the main thing about sadhana bhakti. So even if I didn't share any of this slide with you, what do you mean by sadhana bhakti? What's your understanding of sadhana bhakti? What is sadhana and what is bhakti?
May I say something, Prabhu?
Yes, please go ahead, Mataji.
Yes, sadhana is our daily practice, what Guru Maharaj has asked us to do. Chanting, hearing, listening to either tapes, Prabhupada's tapes, or Guru Maharaj's tapes, reading the scriptures, and then thus we develop the bhakti for Krishna.
Yep. So it is the unalloyed devotional service of the Lord, and that progresses to different stages. Is that right? So, what are the stages of bhakti? Does anybody remember? We read in module 2.
First, we have to have the hearing.
Shraddha is the first one. Shraddha, right? After that comes what?
And we either read the scriptures or get the association of sadhu sangha,
Sadhu Sangha, yes. Then
I'm
going to open this here. You can see it, the 9 stages of bhakti. Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, and the 9th one is the Prema with that, right? So, so these are the 9 stages of Bhakti Yoga, is that right? And so this sadhana bhakti is part of this process, right? So when we are, it starts from the beginning only here, but as we keep going, everything that we do for sadhana bhakti is the foundation to get to the 9th stage, right? Krishna Prema, with that. So, unalloyed devotional service of the Lord progresses in different stages. Practice of devotional service in the material field is of 81 different qualities, and above such activities is the transcendental practice of devotional service, which is one and is called the sadhana bhakti. So, directly engaging in service of the Lord in terms of either um, hearing his name, chanting his name, reading the scriptures, doing deity worship, all those are elements of the unalloyed devotional service. Is that right? This is an important one. When unalloyed practice of sadhana bhakti is matured into transcendental love for the Lord, the transcendental loving service of the Lord begins gradually developing into 9 progressive stages of loving service under the headings of attachment, love, affection, feelings, affinity, adherence, following ecstasy and intense feeling of separation with that, right? So, in other words, they're saying that when this unalloyed practice of sadhana bhakti is matured into transcendental love for the Lord, the transcendental loving service of the Lord begins gradually developing into the nine progressive stages. So initially, we're doing it as a regimen, right? So, for example, if I can give an example of like weight loss, okay? So for weight loss, what are the main things someone needs to do for weight loss? They need to diet. I mean, focus, keep focus, have a focus on their proper diet and exercise, right? These are the two main things for weight loss with that. Initially, when someone tries to do that, it is like a little challenging, right? Like, okay, I'm going to do this as a regimen. Like someone is standing on my head. I have a coach or an instructor or a life coach who's helping me, or a fitness coach and a diet instructor who are helping me to move things forward with this, right? However, if the person adheres to that and they stick with it, they eventually start liking that, right? They start loving it. And those are the people who actually are successful in keeping their weight off with that, right? Does that make sense? That this example? Yeah. So you can think of another example of something where you were trying to do something or learn something new, and if you stuck with that, then you were able to consistently do it and achieve it. But if did not stick with it, then you could not complete that or get to the finish line with that, right? And you're back to square one with that. Does anyone have an example that they can think of?
I think I would say sometimes chanting, you have to be really working hard on that
Mm-hmm.
and put in the
We'll,
time and effort.
we'll talk about chanting in a second, but I'm just asking any Suyash Prabhu or Tim Prabhu. I know we are only three of you here, so I'm going to pick on you only now. So,
Okay. Mhm.
like anything, any new skill that you learned, like I'm just picking something like swimming or learning a new language or something like that.
Yes,
Okay.
Prabhu. Most of the things in life, that's what I do. I catch up
Okay.
very enthusiastically, and it's very hard to keep it up after
Yes,
some time. Yeah.
I know it is very hard to keep it up with that, right? And it's not just you, it's all of us like that, right? So, so that's what Krishna is talking about here. Prabhupada is actually writing in the purport here of this verse in the Bhagavatam, that when this devotional service becomes matured into transcendental love for the Lord with that. So when this initially when we are chanting, as what Slamataji was mentioning, that it is hard, like we are like, okay, why am I doing this? Yes, my Guru Maharaj has told me to do this, but I may not have the complete liking to it at this point, right? Or initially it's a struggle. It could feel mechanical with that, right? Does that happen to anyone? That,
Yes, Prabhu.
yes,
Definitely.
right.
Yes,
So,
Prabhu.
yeah, so these are the natural things that, like, with any new regimen that we do, like, okay, with the weight loss or learning a new skill, swimming, learning a new language, anything that I'm doing initially, until I get to the point where it internalizes within myself. So, initially, it's all externalization, right? Until it becomes internalized within myself, then only, or that's the time when I start loving it. And I'm longing for that. Like, oh, I need to do this. I wake up in the morning, I'm like, this is the first thing I'm doing in the morning today, right? Because I love it so much that I'm looking forward to doing that every day with that, right? So until that happens, that process doesn't become automatic with that, right? And so that's what here it is mentioned that when this unalloyed practice of sadhana bhakti is matured into transcendental love for the Lord, so it from this mechanical piece of doing bhakti, when we develop this love, a transcendental love for doing that bhakti, that transcendental service of the Lord begins gradually developing into the 9 progressive stages. And so from there, then we finally get to this Krishna Prema with that, right? So initially it is a struggle with that, right? So this whole idea of how are we progressing is based on this concept of how we are progressing in our sadhana, in our bhakti, is based on this idea of um, developing and getting to this 9th stage of Krishna Prema with that eventually, with that, right? Yeah. So, so the first thing, of course, is hearing that, right? And so when Nectar of Instruction, the verse 8 talks about the essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form qualities, and eternal pastimes, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. Every day we must create new habits, new samskaras within the mind that relate to Krishna and the spiritual world. How? By hearing and chanting every day with that. Is this, how do you, like, is it practical for us to be his listening and constantly chanting 24 hours a day? And if it is not, then how can we get to the maximum time while we are doing our day-to-day activities, right? You still have to cook for your family, you still have to um, do your day-to-day activities, you have to drive, you have to go to work, all of these things are also there. So how can we still maximize our time? And of course, it may be challenging to get to 24 hours a day because we're not sitting in a jungle under a tree and like just meditating, right? With that, we have to live our life as in the material world. But what can we do some things practically that can maximize our time in listening and hearing with that? Some thoughts or some things that you're already doing at this point.
We can think about Krishna while performing any activity
Okay,
and
and how
devoting.
would you do that? Give
If
me
we are
some
cooking,
examples how you do it.
if we are, if we are cooking, it is for Krishna. We are cleaning the home. It's his home we are cleaning. If we are
Mm-hmm.
serving someone else, it's his devotee whom we are serving. If we are working at our workplace, it is we are giving the results of our work to Krishna in Krishna service.
Right. You do seva at the kitchen at ISV. I had the pleasure of working with you last month, right? Or the month before. When was it? September, right? We met? Yeah. So so when you are all are cooking at ISV, there's a lecture playing behind, right? Of something, or there is kirtan playing behind. So basically, we are listening to hearing, basically to the Vani of a guru or to kirtan or any elevated devotee, any other Maharaj while we are serving, right, or like doing that activity with that, right? That's one example. Vatsala Mataji, you were going to say something?
Oh, yeah, the habits have to be, we have to be determined to practice what we,
Yes,
promised our guru.
I know. Yeah,
We
that
have to be
we see.
really, really strong in our mind.
I know.
Sometimes, we get into some habits, so we postpone it. I have a tendency to postpone, that is very difficult. I have to be really telling inside myself, please do it. We already promised, you must do it.
I know. It's not just you. It is all of us. Yes.
Yeah,
This the laziness or the indolence which is coming from the mode of ignorance, right? It is very
yes,
powerful again, right? We talked
yeah.
about the modes in our last module with that. So it is powerful. Yes. So it's not you. All of us struggle from that. Yeah. Then it becomes a challenge, right? Yeah. That right. So, but the point here is basically whatever you're doing, like in my office, for example, right? When I'm working, I can put like on YouTube or something like some kirtan is playing in the background, right? So at least the whole idea is that our consciousness should be kept getting purified while you are doing or still engaging in your day-to-day activities, right? While you're driving, I mean,
Mhm.
you could be listening to a lecture or something, right? With that, right? Yeah. So like I have a commute of an hour and I take the train here. So in the train, usually I'm chanting when I'm going and I'm coming back with that, right? So I'm chanting in the train with that, right? So I put I know people are talking around me, so I put my headphones and I put Prabhupada's japa or Guru Maharaj's like make japa great again, one of the sessions, and then I play that at the back in my headphones and I'm chanting along with that, right? So one way to utilize my time in something more constructive than checking my phone, right? That which is a very common distraction, right, for us. So that's something like basically that's where how we can maximize our time. I know you're already doing that, but sometimes it's just to hear again, and we even for myself, just a reminder again. It's like, oh yeah, I should be doing that, right? Why did I slip through the cracks again? Let me just bring it back. So it's sometimes important and easy, like to, oh, somebody else told me, I know about it, but when you hear again, you're like, oh yeah, I know it, but I should still do it, right? With that. Okay. Again, hearing this is a quote about commitment, which we'll talk about in the vows later. So schedule hearing and action items here. Schedule hearing and chanting daily. Set goals for daily reading of Srila Prabhupada's book and chanting. Prescribed number of rounds and stay committed, right? As Mataji mentioned. So I know Guru Maharaj has that app, right? Page by, what is the name of the app? Um,
BSH
Page
page by
page by
page.
page.
BSH page by page, right? Has anybody tried that?
Hare Krishna. I have there's one for my reading of Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Mm-hmm.
What you do is you plug in a number of pages that you can do each day, or you could
Yes.
plug in a goal of what kind of book you want to read. And if you want to finish Chaitanya Charitamrita in 5 years, all you have to do is read 4 pages every day. So that's my goal for the CC. And I'd also like to add that I chant on the train too. So I thought
Yeah.
it's nice to hear other devotees saying that.
Yes. Thank you. We are train chanting buddies then. Yes. Perfect. Yeah. So that app is wonderful. Yeah. Okay. This I liked about like, so I never knew the meaning of japa, but this module talks about it so nicely. So ja and pa. Right? So ja means birth after birth because of the force of the karma. As we read in the last module, because of the force of karma, we are taking birth again, repeated birth, right? That the cycle of birth and death keeps happening. Pa means destroying one's karma. So basically, with the chanting, as we are chanting every day, it's our prescribed number of rounds, at least 16 rounds every day, we are destroying our karma gradually and eliminating this repeated birth and death cycle with that, right? With that. So this is really nice. Yeah. That, yeah. So chant with attention, and Guru Maharaj talks about this Sankhya Purvaka, the numerical strength to overcome your mind. So basically, when we give a number, right? So our mind is very tricky. So we want to do one task and move to the next task. So there's several things, right? Okay, especially for an activity that is not initially of interest to us, as we talked about that initially chanting could be a task in itself, right? Okay, yeah, I have to chant now, right? I'm going to sit and chant, right? Initially, it is going to be a challenge to develop that Krishna prema with that, right? So it becomes a task, right? And I have seen myself, if my rounds are not done till the evening and night, I am so stressed for the day, like dropping everything that is there. I'm like, I need to finish my rounds, otherwise I'll be up the whole night, right? And that, and so um, this idea of okay, initially something is a little challenging for me to do, and then I need to do it. Um, and our lives are so busy. So in our lives that we have to take care of multiple things, you're like, oh, let me get through this quickly and I move to the next thing with that, right? So when we anchor something to a number, it gives us um, an end goal, right? Okay, so okay, I have 16 rounds to do. So at 16, I can at least end here. Of course, we encourage, like we know that we need to do even more with that, but at least 16 is what I need to do with that, right? So this gives numerical strength to overcome the mind. And the mind doesn't play this game that, okay, yeah, I did 10 today, it's fine. I need to, maybe tomorrow I can do 11. No, you're to sticking with that every day with that, right? Same thing, like if you're going to the gym, for example, right? Okay, I'm going to do 30 minutes of exercise every day with that, right? Okay, today I'm going to do 20, tomorrow 10, tomorrow 5, nothing like that. I have to stick with that. So when we attach a number to something like that, um, our mind doesn't play with us anymore, right? With that, okay, you are minimizing this mind game that okay, I am going to minimize how much it is the distraction. When I'm done here at this time, at this minute, I have hit my goal. Okay, I feel satisfied. I'm done, right? Can move on to the next thing with that, right? So at least do that much, right? So that's what Guru Maharaj is talking about, Sankhya Purvaka here, that numerical strength helps to overcome our mind. And again, this only not applies to chanting, but any other thing that we're doing in our life, right? Any new habit that we want to form in our lives with that. This is a bhajan by Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Arunodaya Kirtana. Um, we'll read the translation of the sixth and the eighth verse of this. This temporary life is full of various miseries. Take shelter of the holy name as your only business. Drink the pure nectar of the holy name. There is nothing but the name to be had in the 14 worlds. It has filled the soul of Sri Bhakti Vinod Thakur. That's so beautiful. Japa. How do you chant japa? I'm sure all of you know this, right? You just talked about the first beat. We do the Panchatattva prayer. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adhikar Bhaktivinoda. Why is the reason we chant this first before we start any rounds?
We remember and seek blessings from our acharyas.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
I think
I
we
guess
want to get the blessing of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is the one who gave us the mantra.
Yes, yes.
And we
Suyash
want
Prabhu.
to respect him and we want to get the blessing.
Yep. Suyash Prabhu, what were you saying? Something else?
Oh, as me,
Oh,
I was just
Tim
saying,
Prabhu, go ahead. Yes.
I agree with everything they say, but then also the Pachitattva mantra can be chanted without offense.
Yes, the Panchatattva mantra and the Hare Krishna mantra has no rules for chanting, right? And
Yeah.
so we remember Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the whole Panchatattva, five of them, because they're the ones who gave us this mantra, right? And propagated. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave the mantra, and all the rest of four of them, they helped spread this mantra around the world, right? With that. And so they're very merciful. So as we chant, we are going to make offenses knowingly, unknowingly with that, right? And so when we chant this mantra first, we are asking for forgiveness with that, right? That, okay, I'm doing my best, whatever I can do, but I know that there'll be still some offenses as I'm chanting, and then please help me and overcome this, right? And accept my japa, that, right? So I usually chant one more mantra. Let me pull that up. You probably might know it is in Bhagavatam. I think it's the 10th canto or 9th canto. Have you heard of this one? It's the 12th canto, 12.3.51. Okay, let's go and Veda base. I don't think it's this one. No.
No, we are at we should have been third chapter, right? We are at 12th chapter there.
Is it? No,
12th
this
canto, third
is,
chapter,
oh,
51st
12.
verse.
Yes, okay, I got confused. Yeah, thank you.
Correct.
12.3.51. Yes. Yes, this one. Kaler dosha nidhirajam asti hai eko maguna kirtananda eva krishnasya mukta sangha param vraje. This is a mantra that I chant even before chanting the Panchatattva mantra. One of my Shiksha gurus told me about this, and the translation is, "My dear king, although Kali Yuga is an ocean of false, there is still one good quality about this age. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one can become free from the material bondage and be promoted to the transcendental kingdom." All right, so it's a beautiful mantra. And so, just to anchor ourselves, right? Okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to start this auspicious activity of chanting. And so, let me remove or try to minimize my distractions and focus on this mantra and the upcoming mantras after that, right? Yeah. So when there are millions and thousands of mantras like this in Bhagavatam, in Bhagavad Gita, so you can pick one that you resonate the most with, and you can also adopt a practice like that, right? You're already not doing. Okay. Um, There are no hard and fast rules for chanting. You already know these. Keep them in the japa bag, your beads. Don't let them touch the floor of the feet or your feet, or do not take them to the bathroom as well. Most auspicious time to chant is Brahma Muhurta. But as we mentioned, right, there are days and instances where this becomes a little challenge. And so, as long as you're getting to them, during your entire day, that's a good start. That right? Yeah. Yeah. So, but of course, we all know the most auspicious time to chant is in the Brahma Muhurta. Um, Guru Maharaj talks about uh, eliminating the distractions and chanting with absorption. That so eliminating distractions, he mentions about making sure that you are prepared. If this is the first thing that you're doing in the morning, making sure that your asana, your place of where you're going to sit and chant, is already prepared. It's not that, oh, I'm now getting up in the morning and I'm trying to figure out, oh, where am I going to sit? In this room, I'm going to sit, but there's a lot of clutter here. Okay, where are my clothes that I need? Where are my beads? Everything should be laid out before, and then you are ready next day. So eliminating those distractions, because that then just minimizes the bhava, right? With that, right? So, um, that the offenses, this is the most important thing. So, in our vows that we take during initiation, one of the principles that Guru Maharaj often talks about is not offending any devotees, with that, right? Or anybody in general. So, those who wish to successfully chant the holy names of the Lord must avoid the 10 offenses. So, there are the 10 offenses to the holy name. The first one is the most important, is to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for propagating the holy name of the Lord. With that, when one thus criticizes a pure devotee, he commits an offense called Vaishnava Aparadh that is very obstructive and dangerous for those who desire to advance in Krishna consciousness. Guru Maharaj talks about how you overcome this is by removing yourself from the conversations that are happening behind the back of other people. With that, right? That's when we commonly see this. That, oh, there's this happening in my temple, that's the gossip that's happening. How can I remove myself from that? Not paying too much heed or moving away from that conversation, telling that, okay, I have something important to do right now. I'm going to step away with that, right? It becomes a challenge. It comes with practice. It's not easy. I'm struggle this with this all the time with that, right? And because the bottom line is we are in Kali Yuga with that, right? And we learned about the conditioning, right? About in the illusion is one of them, right? With that, the defects of the material world with that. So
Prabhu,
these,
can I interrupt for a second?
sure, go ahead.
Prabhu, we are, I don't know. I hope nobody is in Philadelphia. We have so much of issues, Prabhu. I'm
Okay,
telling you.
I'm going to pause the recording here, okay? Because I
Yeah,
don't want things to get recorded.
I know. This is a Philadelphia issues. We had a Srila Prabhupada's senior devotees. They are
Mm-hmm.
being sidelined, or they are not asking them to come forward to do the kirtan. They are really good. They have helped me when my brother passed away. They helped me.
So our next one here is offense number 3, to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. Is that right? So of course we should not be doing that ever, right? So the spiritual master should be considered to be directly the Supreme Lord because he gives transcendental knowledge for the enlightenment. Consequently, for one who maintains the material conception that the spiritual master is an ordinary human being, everything is frustrated. His enlightenment and Vedic studies and knowledge are like the bathing of an elephant. Yeah, so we should not consider a spiritual master like any other person. He is a direct representative of the Lord who is giving us the light of the knowledge to remove the darkness, right? Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya. That's the actual meaning of this, right? So make a commitment to never engage in the criticism of devotees. There we go. Okay, prioritize this every day. Chant with full attention, discipline. So this, make a commitment. So I think this is an important piece. So that's why Guru Maharaj talks about it during the initiation ceremony. He's gonna ask you, is like, okay, make sure you give a commitment to me that you will never, or at least minimize our engagement in the criticism of devotees with that, right? Because once we have committed to something, right? Like, so we say, okay, one of the vows I'm taking is not to drink alcohol, not to eat any meat, right? Fish or eggs with that, right? So I've given a commitment. So no matter what happens, that's what I'm doing. So the same way we give a commitment, yes, things are going to happen around me all the time because this is the Kali Yuga and this is there are the defects of the material world with that, right? Of the conditioned soul with that. So those are going to happen. But how can I isolate myself and still continue what I'm doing? Because we all are in our own journey with that, even between a husband and wife. We are in a family, a mother and a father, your spouse, your children. You have to be selfish for your journey with that, right? First, with that. So of course, no one is saying that don't take care of family. That's not what I mean. But in this process of getting to the ultimate goal, is that we need to be selfish a little bit with that, right? Yeah. And not get our consciousness affected with this. Okay, so here are the 4 regulative principles. You already know that, and no intoxication, no illicit sex, no meat eating, and no gambling with that, right? So strive to be high-minded, self-controlled, following Srila Rupa Goswami's first instruction in the Upadeshamrita. Okay. We're going to keep moving and coming through Anartha Nivritti. We've been talking about this. What should we do if we stumble along the path of bhakti? Answer number 1, own the problem. If you cannot own it, you can overcome it. With that, keep practicing, don't leave, stay in the saddle. Own the problem. Okay, so one thing about this is when we are in that circumstance where we get affected by someone, right? That, oh, why did this person say this way to me with that, right? It's very easy to retaliate or revoke immediately. Like you can snap back at that person immediately with that. That's not the point here. The point is own the problem. Um, So what is the problem here? That, oh, this person reacted in this way to me. They said things to me. And physically, of course, people generally, we don't see that. Mental torture as we see more with that, right? So the most important thing at that point is that these words that are spoken by someone and if they're not spoken in the proper etiquette, or then they affect us, and we it's hard for us to forget, as you mentioned, Mataji, right? It's like it's hard for you to, even if you forgive the people, it's hard to forget the instances because they leave an impression on us, right? The one thing important that I have tried that sometimes, most of the time works, is taking a step back, and at that moment what you should do, and then at the time later what you do are two different things. So at that moment, of course, I want to minimize myself to retaliate, right? That is a level of maturity that we want to see, but of course you don't want to be exploited in the situation as well, right? If you can remove yourself from the situation, well, that's great. But as you remove yourself, when you take a step back, the next moment or few minutes or instances later, we need to think about, why did this person react in this way? What is going on in their personal life? What are their challenges with that, right? And when I always think about that, then I understand, oh, this is why this person is reacting in this way. And I get a little sense of appreciation of their context and their well-being and their instances. And I think about it, maybe if I was going through in that same situation, I would have reacted in the same way with that, right? So these are some practical ways of how we can own the problem, and if you cannot own it, then you overcome it with that, right? And as we keep doing it, we keep getting better at it, like at any other thing with that. So it's not a physical skill that we're talking about here. This is working at a mental level, at a higher level, and it is very hard to do this, right? With that, yeah. So again, has any experience, without giving names because this session is getting recorded? Um, has anyone tried anything like this? Any thoughts?
Oh, Hare Krishna. I mean,
Hare
in
Krishna.
general, not even in general, dealing with people, even in the workplace,
Mm-hmm.
things very complicated. So I like what you said about taking a step back first, because if you feel offended by somebody else's actions, chances are that they've activated in yourself the mode of passion, and then
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be quick to respond, and it might not respond in a way that's beneficial for both people. So
Yes.
yeah, I mean, it happens. Even offending devotees shouldn't happen, but offending anybody should be avoided. So
Mm-hmm.
even for me, my personal experience, now I'm moving into management because I worked in a restaurant, so or as a waiter for so many years, but now I'm managing. So the mood is completely different. I have to be very, very careful about what I say, especially because we're a corporate group, and anything that is the anything could uh that's not kosher could be put into or reported to HR. And
Mm-hmm.
so you have to be very careful and professional at all times about the things that you say and how you conduct yourself with people. Which on the side though, I found is actually really beneficial for my bhakti. So that way I'm not, it's even more refining my speech and my tongue. But yeah, I just wanted to say that I like what you say about taking a second to pause and not to react so quickly. And I think the only way to really do that is to have good chanting, because chanting really allows us to sit down and pause, and gives us a deeper introspection. And if you don't have that, then you're more likely to respond in a way that's negative, and then you're going to impact the other person. What is that? That there's a saying that, if someone hits you and you hit them back, you're just as bad. So you have to,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
Thank you for sharing. Yes, wonderful. It's always good to hear. I mean, I try, of course, I fail so many times that they're like, okay, I told them, but I need to implement myself, right? Yeah, so it's always good to hear this reminders again and again. Yeah. Okay, Anarthanavritti. This is such a powerful statement from Guru Maharaj. Don't worry if it's a little bit messy at first. It will get better. Failure need not be detrimental. Let it become the pillar of your success and devotional service. This is what we need to look at, right? Yes, yeah. Count. Yes, we're failing, but learn from that lesson and then keep moving. You keep going. You will know more about what makes you fall down and how you can get up again with that. Sadhana bhakti is the stage of improving devotional service that a person who is advanced in Krishna consciousness always feels separation from Krishna because such a feeling of separation excels the feeling of meeting Krishna. Wow, so powerful, right? I'm going to read the middle part here. These feelings develop in time when a person seriously engages in devotional service. The highest stage is called the prema bhakti, but this stage is attained by executing sadhana bhakti. That's right. So, in the nectar of devotion, there are two forms of bhakti that have been reported or mentioned. First one is the Vaidhi Bhakti, and the second one is the more advanced stage is called the Rupanuga Bhakti. Has anyone heard of these two terms before?
We heard about Vaidhi Bhakti.
Right. So Vaidhi Bhakti is basically what we're talking about, right? So chanting 16 rounds, it's a regimented practice. So someone has told me, or my Guru Maharaj has told me, I've heard from senior authorities that I should be doing this. I should be following the four regulative principles and I should be doing 16 rounds every day of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra with that. That is Vaidhi Bhakti. Okay. Someone told you to do this with that. Okay, I have to go to the gym, I have to eat this diet, and I do with that. As over time, as we talked about the process initially, we develop a liking for this, right? And as we move forward, we are then able to develop as we get the prema, the Krishna prema, as we keep getting this process become more automatic, we move to Rupanuga Bhakti, where we are actually longing to do this with that, right? Oh, I am 24/7 going to be doing this with that. Or if I'm not doing it, back of the mind, it's happening with that, right? So if you've been to any 24-hour kirtan, you might have noticed that the next day in the morning when you're getting up, you're just hearing, or Sadhu Sangha festival here in the US, right? You keep hearing about the kirtan is reverberating, that echoes are happening in your mind with that, right? So that kind of a feeling that, oh yeah, it's always happening. So this process of Vaidhi Bhakti moves to this automatic process of where you're constantly desiring that. That is the Rupanuga Bhakti with that, right? So where it's not enforced anymore, but the desire is coming from within all the time with that. So that's what this whole process of sadhana bhakti helps us to move forward with that. The next thing is Guru Vani. So there is a Vapu and the Vani Seva that you might have heard in the ISKCON Disciple course. So the Vani is associating with the teaching of the spiritual master. So here's some, we're not going to read each of these excerpts from Srila Prabhupada. You can read this. And then there are several lectures here, and also from Guru Maharaj, there are a lot of lectures here that if you get a chance, please read them, right? This is really nice, just for being very practical here. Like, so chanting with attention, 3 stages of chanting in part 3. Tips for japa, entering kirtan and japa in a prayerful mode. So these are very powerful lectures. So please hear them. And one way of hearing them could be like, oh, I can hear while I'm cooking, or I'm driving, or I'm in the train, or doing some other thing. At least if I'm not able to even give full attention to it, but something is still going in my head, right? In my brain with that, right? So um with that, right? Or of course, if you have the time, sit and watch and hear attentively with that, right? Yeah. All right. I think those are the main things for this module. Any questions for this?
Yes, no, I have one.
Yes, please go ahead, Prabhu.
So uh, we are called Rupanugas, right, in general, but we are not.
Mm.
We should not be practicing Rupanuga Bhakti. We should be practicing Vaidhi Bhakti because we are not that stage.
So it's an interesting question. Yes, we're called Rupanugas, but the goal for us to get to that Rupanuga Bhakti, I wouldn't say that we should not be practicing Rupanuga Bhakti.
Uh-huh.
We want to practice that. We want to get to that stage, but we might start from some Vedi Bhakti stage with that, right? So it again, there is with I'm going to come back to the analogy of the painting that I was talking about, right? So how much there are two paintings that we mentioned. There's one painting in the garage that has accumulated a lot of dust over the years, and there's one painting that's on the wall right now inside the house. Okay, that has very
Uh-huh.
minimal layer of dust with that, right? So uh, everybody is starting at a different journey. I cannot judge that, oh, the person who's next to me in the temple or even my spouse at home, right? Where they are starting, I have no idea, right? Because I don't have that lens or that power to look where they were in the previous life or the previous lives before that, and where are they starting their spiritual journey in this life with me, right? I'm only seeing with what is front of me and how much time I've known them, right? With that from a very
Uh-huh.
narrow vision with that. So it is possible that when they joined the when I saw them, when I got in contact with them, they were already at that Rupanuga stage with that, right? So
Mm.
with that, right? So it's a tricky to put that to say that how how would I know, right? Okay, if the person like even to measure the level of attention during chanting is very difficult, right? I can't measure my own attention level in chanting because of course I get distracted when I'm chanting. Forget about the other person, right? How can I measure there with that, right? And this constant desire of always hearing and listening and chanting with that, right? So it's very hard to measure these things, right? So it's difficult to say that, oh, that we should not be practicing the Rupanuga Bhakti, but we should be starting from Vedi Bhakti. Yes, that is in general, it is true, but where is the person starting from? That I have no idea, right? With that,
Uh-huh.
right? That,
True. Thank you.
right.
Haribol
Prabhu, I
Prabhu.
have.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mataji.
Sorry. Does this Rupanuga Bhakti, does it come naturally after some stages of chanting, or we are not forcing it, right?
Yes. Well, that is what this is, right? The nine stages of Bhakti here. And so the main thing is like, of course, when you start chanting is here, right? Sadhu Sangha and Bhajana Kriya is where we start chanting, right? With
Mm,
these stages here. But then this is where the Rupanuga Bhakti is happening, eighth
mm,
and ninth stage with that, right? Yeah. Ruchi, the taste is when you're getting it, right? So all this is Rupanuga Bhakti here with that, yeah.
mm.
But then, of course, as you see here, to get to that, we need to cross all these hurdles, and the biggest one is the unalterability that we spent so much time talking about it, right? Yeah. So yes, Prabhu, you had something else?
Yeah, Prabhu, I would like to stop record. Excuse
Okay,
me.
sure. We can,
Thank you.
Bhakta Tim left, but I think this is it. We have a lecture, I mean, not lecture, we have a class next Sunday also because we missed the one last Sunday as I was traveling. So we would try to go over the quiz answers and the reflection questions of this module next Sunday. And I will share the recording shortly on the WhatsApp group of this. Right. Anything
Thank you,
else?
Prabhu.
Thank you,
No
Prabhu.
worries. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Have a blissful Sunday and the last few days of Kartik. And I will see you next Sunday. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhu.
Dandavat Pranam. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyascha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you. Hare
Thank you.
Krishna. Ananta Koti
Hare Krishna.
Vaishnava ki
Have a
jai.
good day. Thank you.
You too.